I wanted to review a few things with you that might seem new to this cohort if you are a returning DE. If you're a new DE, of course, it's all going to be new and look a little strange to you, but hopefully this will clear things up. So let me share my screen real quick. The first thing we're going to look at is the DE dashboard, where we kind of all live as developmental editors. It's kind of the hub for everything. So you can see here some fictitious names, well, real people, but this is a demo. So this is what you're normally used to seeing. If we are doing rolling cohorts going forward, you may have two different cohort layouts on here. So it's really important to keep in mind for your weekly messages and all your information you're sharing with writers on which cohort they're a part of because of specific deadlines, timelines, etc. So this is basically what it was. The previous cohort might look a little bit different. The same check boxes for sending the introduction, the key dates, first calls, that kind of stuff. There's a new section possibly of the positioning doc, which is it's new to this cohort, so I'm going to bring that up. But basically, when you go into a writer's content index, they have a new tab that is kind of new for all of us. We have the creating content, which is where nuggets and stories will go, and research. We have the creating chapters, which hopefully we'll be getting into a lot earlier with this cohort going forward. And then there's this new tab that you may see for cohort 19 writers, book positioning. Now, this isn't going to be for all dashboards or all content indexes, sorry, because we have some writers who are rolling over from previous cohorts. But if they're entirely new and they're coming in through MAA, the Modern Author Accelerator, they will most likely have this book positioning tab on their content index. And this is a new section to get familiar with as you're working with your writers. So that can just be found on the far left, book positioning. And what happens is when they first come into the cohort, they get instruction to, fill out all this information. They have up at the top here a positioning workbook, which helps them fill out all this useful information that you should hopefully have ahead of time before working with writers, which is, there's the program timeline, there's developing research for the book, interview targets, outreach, that kind of stuff. Then there's also this new tension statement that writers are going to be working on. And hopefully sooner than later, possibly even by the time you get to work with your writers, they will have an inspiration story written, either a table of contents if they're working with nonfiction, or an outline started if they're working with fiction or creative nonfiction, and possibly even the introduction started. So a lot of information will be right here at your ready. So just kind of get familiar with this when you first get started. And before you ever have your first phone calls with your writers, just kind of be familiar with all their information about their book. This will be a good source for you to figure out what their book is about. And the next thing is, which you can access from here, is the positioning workbook, which is entirely new. This is the document they will fill out ahead of time. It's kind of a combination between their big ideas document and their traction plan. But it's all in one place now, and you can kind of scroll through and see this is the positioning process they go through, which is what we just covered: conducting research, defining the tension statement, writing their inspiration story, their table of contents, and even their introduction or author's note. So scroll through here, get familiar with their book before you talk with them. They'll appreciate that. One thing to note as well is just look for the big steps in here. This document kind of explains to them how their content index works, what a tension statement is, and they actually fill out all this information right in this document. And this is also the place where you'll see their inspiration story. It might be buried in here, kind of like how it used to be buried in the big ideas documents. So definitely get familiar with their book before working with them, and just kind of help them out. Check out those documents. That way you're ready to work with them hands-on. So if you have any questions, of course, reach out in the chat room, go through the rest of this training, and it'll hopefully all make sense.